Hello everybody, we're Steve and Cathy Smith, and we have been presenting the Irish Wake at the Michigan Irish Music Festival since 2006. Now the tent is set up as if it were the 1890s, and we're mourning an old man who has died in a small cabin in rural Ireland. Now over the years, thousands of you have come and explored the wake with us, and you know that we could talk a lot more than 10 minutes. However, for this presentation, we just want to answer some of the most frequently asked questions. So, why is he on a door?
Well, it's a one-room cottage, and the wake lasts for 3 days and the nights between them. Where are you going to put a corpse for 3 days in a one-room cottage? You can't leave him in the bed. Someone has to sleep. You don't want to put him on a table. The table's for the food and the drink and the hospitality. Well, people are going to be opening and closing the front door at all hours of the day and night. You might as well take the door off the hinges. Lay it across a couple of sawhorses. You got a place to put the corpse. We've got a candle at his feet and a candle at his head because there's 2 rules you never break at any wake right up to the modern day. First rule is you never leave the body alone. Not for a minute, not for a moment. And the second rule is you never leave the body in the dark. Now, why are his toes tied together?
Well, some people will tell you that it's to keep the ghost from walking, but there's a more practical reason. Now, over the course of 3 days, his feet would have a tendency to sort of fall to the sides, and should he stiffen this way, you'd have trouble getting him into that narrow-footed toe pincher coffin that we'll be using. So, to keep him nice and neat, and because it looks more formal, we're going to tie them together and keep him toes up. Now he's also, you'll note that he is barefoot because he's on his last pilgrimage. And God willing, he'll next be standing on holy ground. But pilgrims traditionally go barefoot. We'll send him off with a pair of shoes just in case he needs them, but if he needs them, he can put them on himself. Now, what's that on his chest?
Snuff. Tobacco snuff. It's finely ground tobacco, used by being sniffed up the nose. Wildly popular in the 1800s among both men and women, but it was very expensive. People couldn't afford to buy it. Pipe tobacco was cheap, snuff was dear. If you left the snuff over with the pipe tobacco on the table, it'd be gone in half an hour. So they put it on the chest, and you're only supposed to take a pinch of snuff when you come up to pay your last respects. Once. If somebody was up there 4 or 5 times, everyone in the room can see what he's doing, everybody knows what's going on, he's there for the snuff. So you keep it up here as portion control. Now, the pennies on his eyes are for the ferryman, right?
Not really. That's a Mediterranean tradition. The Irish mainly use the pennies just to keep his eyes closed. You don't want him looking back at you when he come up for that pinch of snuff. So now let's turn to the other table and the things that we can see there.
All right. All right. There's a clock on the table. It appears to be stopped. It's set for the wrong time. Why the clock?
Well, you'll find this in many cultures, that the clock is stopped at the time of death and not restarted again until after the body leaves the home. Now this was a sign of respect, a matter of respect not only for the dead who has, well, he's no longer living in time. Time has stopped for him, and we're going to honor that. But it's also respect for the family. Come when you can, leave when you must. Eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired, and not because some mechanical device is telling you what to do. Likewise, the family will have the funeral on the 3rd day when they're ready to say goodbye to him, and not on some artificial timeline.
Okay. What about the mirror?
Well, the mirror is covered, again, you'll find this in many cultures, and again, it's a sign of respect. First of all, it's not a time for vanity, not a time for worrying about how you look, but a time for reflecting on more important matters. But there was also a fear that there was another world on the other side of the mirror, and a more unnatural world. And at a time when life and death are together in one small cottage, there was a fear the wall between the worlds was thin and porous, and you didn't want anything from that other world coming out. And you didn't want anybody being pulled in. And so to protect everybody, we're just going to cover the mirrors. And to help you remember this, we're going to give you an extra superstition. Now, should you see yourself in a glass and the reflection of the deceased over your shoulder, well, it was terrible bad luck. It was like catching a bouquet at a wedding. It meant you're next. And there are some things you just don't want to know where you're in line for. Now, I get the idea of watching over the body to make sure that he's really dead and to protect it until he's taken to his final resting place. But why did the Irish turn it into such a party with food and drink and music and games?
Well, it started out as just the family watching over the corpse. Well, maybe the neighbours came over. If you take it in stages, maybe the neighbours came over and said, you know, we're your friends. Let us help you through this difficult time. We'll help you stay awake if nothing else. But you know, Sean's got his fiddle and he always loved a good fiddle tune. Let's send him off with one. If you got the fiddler, why not the ballroom player? And the ballroom player, why not the piper? If you got them, the young people can have a ceilidh, they can have a bit of a dance. You have to remember that during large parts of the British occupation of Ireland, which was almost 800 years, it was illegal for more than a few Irish men to gather in one place at one time, because the Brits were afraid they'd be plotting a rebellion. And they would have been. But they made two exceptions to the rule: weddings and wakes. Well, if you can only have a good party, if you're marrying someone or burying someone, you're going to take advantage either time. And so they did.
Now, the Irish wake continued up until modern times, until, particularly in Ireland, as there became more money, more people living in the cities, the communities broke up a little bit, and there were more opportunities for different things, different forms of entertainment. Eventually the wake moved out to the funeral home. But even that is starting to change back. So we just want to finish with this. A wake, if you take nothing else with you from this presentation, understand that a wake is a celebration of life. And even though there are many things this year that are keeping us apart, there's still life, and there's still life to celebrate. So enjoy the music, enjoy the storytelling, and thank you for stopping by at the Irish Wake. If you have any more questions, feel free to check out my webpage, irishteller.com, or you can email me, storyteller@dublin.com. And have a very pleasant day.